In our last video, we deployed an NFT contract. So what we're going to do today is we are going to mint an NFT using that contract. So there's a two or three APIs we might end up working with this time. The first thing we need to do is to generate, let me show you here. This is the ethereum.org website, and we're going to talk about the metadata that's needed to represent the NFT that we mint. So looking right here is the schema that says, what do I need to have in a JSON document that is minted to that NFT contract that will point to an image. So let's go through this. It's a little easier than maybe I'm making it sound right now. There are really just three properties within this. Since this is a schema, there's extra data here, but the three properties we need to have are name, description, and image. The name and description can be anything, and the image is going to be the path, the URI, to the image we put out on Pinata or on the IPFS server. And this file will get published to Pinata, an IPFS server, and it will get its own content ID, its own CID. Let me see if I've got something I can show here. If I go out to my Pinata account, you will see that I have a file for the dead bee picture on a flower that I have. And what I'm going to show here is you can see it has a content ID. It looks almost exactly like any of the other files, which are images that I've uploaded. But when we look at this file, you'll see that we have a JSON structure here. I wonder if that's even legible. Let's see here. We're going to make it bigger. Actually, maybe we go this route. Let's see how quickly I can get to a JSON online editor, just to give you a little bit better picture of this file. Okay. So if we look over here to the formatted JSON that I just stuck in there, this is the JSON from the file in Pinata.cloud, and it has name, description, and image, just like what I showed over here in the schema, name, description, and image. Let me go to the right one. Where am I going? Okay, there we go. Back to where I wanted to be. So this is an instantiation of the schema into an actual JSON file. Goodness me. Okay, the name is going to be a dead bee on flower 2. The description is whatever I made it. And then here is the IPFS address. So the CID prefaced by the IPFS protocol. And we'll get into a little bit of the details of what the limitations are on where you can use that protocol. But I am going to copy this and show you that this points to that image. So let's go ahead and go to my gateway with Pinata. It'll be Let's Web3, my Pinata. Let me get the right CID. So what I'm doing here is I'm going through my Pinata gateway, which brokers me to the CID. So it's my gateway, and I get to do that because I have a paid account, but you can still do it without a paid account. May not even need a paid account for that, but let's ignore that for now. You'll see IPFS here, and then you'll see the CID. So when I hit enter, you'll see the dead bee on a flower picture. And so I show you all this so that you know that what we're going to create is this JSON file. And this JSON file is what gets minted to the blockchain with the Tatum.io API we're going to call. And it's going to reference this image here, which when I click here, you'll see once again, same image. So that's how a minted NFT all ties together, is you have that ERC 721 schema standard, which is the file that has a name and a description, and it points to the image that has a CID on an IPFS server, in our case, Pinata.cloud. So the steps we're going to go through is calling the Pinata.cloud API that will allow us to publish a JSON file to their IPFS servers. And then we'll call the Tatum.io API that will mint that to the blockchain. Lots of words, let's do a thing. Hopefully that all makes sense. We're going to start with going out to Pinata.cloud. And here I sit in the Pinata API, pinning pin JSON. So here we have what the curl command is. So we won't need this key values section here, but we do need to specify the Pinata options. We do need to specify a name, and then we will change the Pinata content to actually represent the JSON schema that I showed you and talked way too much about, which will be name, description, and image. So let's go over here and create, what am I going to do? I'm going to do Pinata NFT JSON. NFT, let's do this, Pinata metadata. You're going to see that I'm going to struggle with what words I want. Pinata JSON metadata. We're going to say that's the function name. And we are going to put in an external API through import curl, like we've done so many times. Okay. So we're well on our way to importing the JSON file. And this will be JSON uploaded. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to do a little bit of cleanup on what was imported here. So we're good with the Pinata option of the CID version. That's the default. The metadata, we need the name. And so for now, I'm going to hard code a name, but you know what? Let's be better than that. It doesn't take us long to do it the right way. Let's just pass in a name and a description, because we know those are our choice. Let's say that's good for now and then see what we need as we go. Okay, so we are at the Pinata metadata. This is going to be the name of the file that shows up in the Pinata list. So instead of testing, let's pick name. And then so we've got the path of name and we've got the input of name. And then the key values we don't need. We need this so that it looks right, but we don't need any data in there. I'm going to get rid of that, both of those. And then Pinata content, we need to turn this into the ERC 721 standard. So we're just going to build it up and then come back. See, we want to stay in here. We're going to add filter. And this will be description. Oh my, you got to watch when you just hit enter. I've broken myself a few times this way. Since description is in the input and I just hit enter when I typed in description, it will assume that it's the input one. And I really want it to be text. And so to make that work, click on the green arrow or the green check mark. Okay, name, description, and I've got, click there, one more to add, which is going to be image. Okay. So I need to put values in there before we call it done. So let's see here. We're going to use the same name. So we will use name. And then for description, we know we're going to use description. And then I need to come up with an image path. So we are going to pass that in. We're going to pass in an image URL as input. And then we'll just manually get one out of Pinata to make this work. Come in here, we'll pick URL, update. And then I need to use my Pinata JWT, which means I'm going to do a sprint F like we have done many times before. Add the environment variable. Come down to, okay, I'm right, there it is, I'm right on top of it. Okay. So in theory, other than fixing this, JSON uploaded, we've got the right response. And then I also want to get the response.result. And that'll just get me the information that's interesting, which may just be a transaction. No, it'll be a few properties. Okay. So we know we're going to need the URL. Let's fill in what we can. So this is video tutorial 01. Grab this and go, this is, there we go. And then the next thing I need is going to be a URL. And so we're going to go IPFS, and what I need is the CID. Let's close this one. I do not need that anymore. Let's see what this image looks like. We're going to go with this one. That's kind of a cool image. I'm going to copy that CID, come back here, paste it. So now when I run it, wow, works first time every once in a while. So I now have an IPFS hash in Pinata, and we can remember the KSABA at the end. I know the pin size. If you notice, it's small because it's just characters, it's not an image, and then the timestamp. So if I go look for the KSABA, it should be the first one in the list when I refresh. And there it is, KSABA. And then when I click on this, it's just going to be hard to read probably because it's small, but video tutorial 01. Oh, I've got a broken. This should say name, but I screwed up and I used the input, I'm guessing, and didn't save it when I changed it. So I'm going to show you how to fix that, because this should be name, video tutorial 01. Then I have description and the right description. And then I have image and I have the IPFS protocol and the CID. But let's go back and fix what I broke here. So if I come back to the API, we will see that the name down here, look at that, path input name is not what we want. We want text, because once again, green check mark. Now, I'm guessing if I run this again, it'll give me the normal is duplicate. Maybe not. Okay. It created a new one. Oh, because the little details. This is something to remember. So I have a whole new file up there. It's 147 characters because the text of name is shorter than what it was, which is video tutorial 01. And because we have different content in that JSON file, we get a different CID. So if we go look for the SMVIU, we are going to see that pop up at the top. Same name, but when we go, there it is, SMVIU. When we go into this one, prove that I really fixed it. We now have name, and then the value of that. We have description and the value, and we have image and the value. So now I have uploaded the JSON file that we need as metadata. So we know this is working. We've got this as Pinata JSON metadata. So let's create a separate one that is going to be datum NFT mint. Go to description. This will mint an NFT of Polygon blockchain. Trying to get better at just short little documentation. What we're going to do is come out to tatum.io, and we are going to the smart contracts section, NFT, so ERC 721 standard, like we've been talking about, which is a non-fungible token standard. And we are going to pick the mint and NFT. Now, there's a lot of great information in this section, and there's a number of different ways to mint an NFT. Some of them a little bit easier than what we're going to do, but I'm going to show you one that mints an NFT directly to the blockchain, whereas some of the other options mentioned, they do make it easier. There's fewer parameters, but they rely a little bit more heavily on the structure and abilities of Tatum. And since the first one I did for myself was Mint NFT as opposed to Mint NFT Express, we're going to stick with that pattern just so we get a little better understanding of all of the all of the machinations going on. Okay, so I would recommend that you read through all of these if you've got a few minutes to just understand all the options you have with Tatum, because they do a great job of making it easy to interact with the blockchain. What we are going to focus on is, I think it's this one, minting NFTs natively on a blockchain. And we're doing Polygon, as we've been doing the whole time. And then if you come down here, there's a whole nother big section of how to do that and what to pick for the transaction type. We are going to pick this one to mint NFTs natively because this one is native to Polygon, and it's saying that we should use the mint NFT schema for the request body. So if I scroll back up here just to show you where I'm at, that's the reason I picked this mint NFT, because that's the one that's native published to Polygon. Okay, we're going to scroll back down there so we know where we're at. Maybe I went past it. Yeah, so that's the section we're working from. This is where I found out which one I'm doing, and really everything else is specified in the schema that is here. Now, we don't have to do all these since it's native to blockchain. It's showing way more than we need, but we're going to scroll back up and just get into the fun of it and see what damage we can do. So I'm going to come back up here, and I've switched it to Matic from ETH. It always defaults to ETH, but I've got it switched to Matic, and we're just going to leave everything like it is for now, which is down here. We're going to copy this and go over to Xano, and we are going to do our normal routine of importing the curl. Okay. Let me make sure I have what I have here. NFT mint, that's perfect. I'm going to save this before I forget, just so that we've got that. And I am going to change my output, NFT minted. And we're going to go ahead and switch it as a response while I'm thinking about it this time. Okay, back into the API. Okay, so let's go through and make the changes we need to make in the parameters. The chain is Matic, so that stays as is. The token ID needs to be unique across any specific NFT contract ID. I'm going to start us off, let's say, with 20. Now, if you notice when I enter 20, this will become a problem later. It puts it to integer, because it recognizes it as a number in Xano. And this will fail when we call the API. And I'm going to go ahead and show you what that fail looks like. So I'm going to leave this wrong, and then we'll come back and fix it after we run a test. So hopefully I remember that I purposely left that broken. Now the to address needs to be the public address of the account, the wallet, that you're going to give ownership of this NFT to. Let's go ahead and save this, because I need to go out and grab a public address. Since there's so many parameters on this one, what I'm going to do is I'm going to build this manually at first, and then we'll come back and we'll query that data. There we go, Tatum NFT mint. Let's come back in here. So the public address is going to be one of my public addresses. And that was out of my wallet one. And then the URL is going to be to the JSON file that we published. So let me go ahead and grab that file. Make sure this is the right one. Okay, name, description. So yeah, that all looks good. I'm going to grab this file path, and we're going to come back over to Xano, and we're going to put that in the URL. Okay. So now we know what NFT in essence via the JSON file that we're minting, and then I need my private key. So you know what, I'm gonna go ahead and open up, save this so I don't lose it. And then I'm gonna just duplicate my tab so that we can work off of the database in a second tab. And so I needed the private key. So we're gonna come over here and grab the private key from the testnet wallet and come back in and just manually stick it in there. Once again, we'll do all this programmatically before it's all said and done. And then I need to put in my %s because we need the Tatum token, which means I'm going to do a sprintf. I'm going to grab the environment, Tatum API key. Okay, so this should fail. Here we go. This is the error. There we go. Token must be shorter than or equal to 256 characters. So when you make the mistake, oh, and there's two errors actually. I forgot about this one. The contract address is missing, and I'll explain that here in a sec. So we're going to fix two things, even though I purposely just left one broken. So token ID must be shorter than or equal to 256 characters. That happens because we left this as a number, as an integer. Now what you could do is you could just come in and set it as text and force it to be text, which will work perfectly well. But what I've discovered is when I come in subsequently and increment the token ID so that I can mint another NFT to the same contract, look what happens. It'll change to integer, you won't notice, and it'll fail. So what I've been doing is coming in and adding a filter, which is, oh, let me find it here, to text. So I'm just explicitly through a filter forcing it to text, so that way I can't make a mistake going forward. It'll always be a letter. Characters. Okay, so I saved that. Let's go back to that second error I talked about. It said we're missing contract address. Now I don't know why this is the case, and I haven't taken the time to learn it yet. But if you, let me make sure I'm on, yeah, Mint NFT. If you look here on what we copied, For some reason, they don't have contract address in here. I'm going to make the assumption that that's just a documentation error, and we're going to fix this in pretty short order. What we're going to do is come back over to this API. We're going to add that we are going to call it contract address, just like the error told us was missing. Let me save that real quick. Oops, save that. I'm going to come over here to my database, same workspace, and go into the chain transaction table. And this is where we're recording the contract ID of the deploy NFT that we did in the last video. So what I'm going to do is grab that one manually and come back over to the function we're working on. And for contract address, I'm going to set that value. And the reason for that is that you publish the NFT to an actual contract or a contract address. And you can then get to any of the NFTs published to that contract through using that address, but you need to publish an NFT to a contract. So we're going to go ahead and rerun this. Here we go. We have a transaction. Just get that. So what we're going to do, let me just make this easier to get to. I keep forgetting to make those changes. I want to get response result. Okay. Okay, so we have a transaction ID, and I am going to come back over to my Mumbai Polygon scan. We're going to drop this transaction ID in here. Okay, and so you will see that our transaction exists. You will see that we have published it to the contract ID and that it is an ERC721 token ID. There is a transaction fee of 0.012 Matic, which is about a penny in US dollars. And so at this point, let me see here, click to see more. You'll see some more of the details. And then this is the representation of the JSON document. And I'm going to do another API call that shows you the NFT metadata in a cleaner fashion. But this proves that we have correctly published it. If I come in here and view it as UTF-8, I get a little cleaner view. Some of it's still encrypted or encoded. But here you will see the URL that we told it to show. So if I come over here, there is the JSON that we had done in Pinata. Okay, so at this point, I have just minted an NFT from my Pinata account. It's now minted on the Polygon testnet. So the next thing I want to do is I want to create kind of a utility function that gets the NFT information back so you can see it for a contract. So Tatum NFT list. Let's go with that. And let's say this retrieves a list of NFTs from I think I can do it this way, specific contract ID. Let's see if we can't find that correct function that we'll end up putting into import curl. So we need to fill this in. So that means I'm going to come back over to Tatum. And now, instead of minting an NFT, which we successfully did, I'm going to come down here. I don't want to get transaction info because that is kind of the cryptic info that we saw here. And what we want to do is get a clean view of this metadata. I'm not really interested in pulling back all this information. So what I need to do is not fall into the trap of getting NFT transactions in any form, which is all of these. But I think I want to get NFTs from a collection. So I've had a few pauses in this one already, but I did find finally the API that I was looking for. I went past it a few times. We are looking to get NFTs from a collection. And the reason for that is I've expanded this out on the results. We're looking to get back this metadata. And this specific API call does a good job of pulling out the encoded metadata that we were looking at in the transaction on the blockchain and puts it in this format, which is what we want, because when we create the marketplace, we want to be able to display the name and the description and then access the CID or the image to show that as well. So it's important to have an easy way to get that information back. So I'm going to grab this API call and we're going to head back over here. We're going to get, and we'll need to replace address. There we go. And that'll be the contract ID if I'm remembering correctly. And then obviously that's the API key. Page size we'll leave as 10 for now. I don't know that it'll matter much. Let's add our filter because we do have the need for a sprintf. And then I need to put in a contract ID. We're going to come back over here and we're going to use this contract ID because it's the one we just used to mint that one. And we're going to leave it hard-coded because I don't want this video to go so long, but we will come back in a later video, maybe even the next one, and clean this. All the hard coding I did will clean that up so that we've got use of our database to populate that. Let's fix our API key. Back to the sprintf filter. And then we will grab the Tatum API key and we're good to go. Okay. Let me fix my output. And this is NFT list. We'll mark it here as NFT list. And we will get the fonts result, I believe is what it is. Okay. I am going to assume that this will get me what I want. Looky there. Okay. Now you see a bunch of NFTs listed, and the main reason for that is that I have tested this a number of times to make sure I knew what I was doing. And so here's the one we did most recently, the one at the bottom. Token ID that I specified was 21. The metadata URL is here. This should be, grab this, this should be the JSON file. There we go, that's the JSON file. And then this is the metadata that we sent in. It was called Pinata content in the Pinata API that I called, and it had the name and the description and the image. And so this is the CID of the image. Now, the reason I've put IPFS here, and me being somewhat new at this as well, this may not turn out to be the best, but in a number of articles that I read, you could specify this on the front of that CID down here, and then I could use it directly in our marketplace to show the image. But they had a good point, which is as more browsers natively handle the IPFS protocol prefix, this will just automatically work. And since what you put on the blockchain is permanent, it's better to be forward looking and publish your image structure as IPFS. Might even be better to do it up here, but let's just ignore that for now and focus mainly on the metadata that'll work in the marketplace. So this is forward looking. If you do want to test it, you can test it in the Brave browser. And actually, let me pause for a second. While I'm taking too long already, why don't I pause and bring up my Brave browser and just show you how that will work. Okay, I did cheat and pause it and make sure it was going to work. I kind of stopped it and restarted it. And I think we'll be better off here. This is normally what you would see. So I have IPFS, I have the CID, I hit enter, and there's the image we were working with. And for what it's worth, this is an image auto-generated from a text prompt using Stability.ai's new new image generation tool. I think it's called Dream Studio. I think that just went public recently, so that's also fun to look at. So you should go out there and get that and play around with it. Create some cool images. But I'm distracted. So this shows that the IPFS protocol is becoming more normalized. Chrome does not yet support it. You can get plugins for Chrome, but right now what you'll get is it just attempts to search. If you do the IPFS, yeah, that's what I'd done. So that won't work for you unless you get the plugin. It will work in Brave. So what we've done at this point is minted an NFT. Um, we've, well, I guess before we minted it, we stored off the JSON metadata in IPFS that specified a name, a description, and a specific image. And then from that, we used the Tatum NFT API to mint Tatum NFT mint. We did this one to actually use that information to mint it. And you need to keep in mind every time you mint a new item to the same contract ID, you need to increment this value because it'll fail if you try to use the same one twice. So we minted it. And then just to show that they really existed, we used show you this one because it took me so long to find it. We used the NFT collection API to get back a list of all of the NFTs that have been minted. So the more you mint, the more that you'll get in the list. And if you just kind of picture forward when we have the marketplace, and then let's say we put an app on top of that marketplace API so that you can see it, you'll either be able to use a market API or the contract collection API to get back all of the items to show on a page with their images. So we're getting close. At this point, you can mint as many NFTs as you want. So in the next one, we may do some cleanup and make our API calls more dynamic. And we might also at the same time generate the marketplace that these will be displayed in. So lots of fun in the next one. Thanks for hanging out with me.